welcome to the Push-Pull Sales and Marketing Podcast. I'm Marcello.
And I'm Sherry, and each episode will provide you with sales and marketing strategies that you can implement immediately into your own business. Today, Marcello interviews Nick Raithel, who is the creator of the 7-Hour Book, a great resource for anybody who has been meaning to write that book, meaning to get their thoughts and advice or story out into the world and just doesn't have the time to do it. So Nick has created something. If you go to contentcore.net, which is, CORPS, you'll be able to find that resource, or you can go to pushpullsales.com and find the show notes for this episode there. Also, quick note before we dive into the episode, if you go to pushpullsales.com/resources, you will find a whole list of recommendations from Marcello and I. Books, audiobooks, courses, things that we have read and gotten a lot out of ourselves. Stuff that really cuts to the meat of the issue, is really helpful. None of that fluffy business, salesy marketing stuff. And, books and offerings from past guests are there as well. So if you click over to that, pushpullsales.com/resources, you'll find the page with all of our affiliate links, which always helps us out and lets us keep bringing you great content. But other than that, let's dive into it.
All right, we have Nick Raithel, the creator of the 7-Hour Book, on the podcast. Nick, we definitely appreciate you having you on here. It's definitely a pleasure to finally have the chance to talk to you. So first off, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure, absolutely, Marcello. Two things. First, I'm a marathon runner.
Really?
I find that in the process of being an entrepreneur, in the process of selling, running long distances helps me to organize my thoughts, helps me to really get focused and centered. And I think it's important to stay physically fit in the sense of just maintaining yourself. So marathon running helps me to do that.
How long have you been running marathons?
Goodness. Well, the marathons themselves, those within the last 5 years, I've really gotten serious about that distance. Okay. But I've been running distances, period, for many, many years.
Really? That is interesting. Actually, when I was in high school, I got tricked into being on the cross-country team. I had tried out, or not even tried out. I think it was gym class, and we got time for the mile. And I actually tried, and most of the other people in my gym class didn't. So the gym teacher, or the physical education teacher to be appropriate, he pulled me aside and he's like, "Hey, I know you're a wrestler. A lot of the wrestlers are on the cross-country team." I was like, "Oh, really? Yeah, it's a good thing to stay in shape, all that good stuff." So sure enough, I joined the cross-country team, and not one other wrestler was actually on the cross-country team. But it definitely clear your mind and stuff like that, and it certainly helps. So you started with shorter distances. You kind of worked your way up.
I did. I started off much as you, it sounds like, did, with being good at the mile. Mm-hmm. Because when you're young, the mile is a long distance. It's more than one lap around the track, certainly.
Yeah, very cool. So tell me, how do you translate then marathon running? Because that's kind of interesting. Of all the people we've spoken with, no one had first said, "Bam, I run marathons." So how do you translate that directly into your business?
Well, I think you can translate it in a few ways. One of the ways that I would suggest is that you look at the analogy of the marathon to business. You're not going to have, unless you're one of those unicorn Silicon Valley companies, you're not going to have a quick, flashy mile to your business. A 3-minute or 4-minute start to finish burn like that to success. It's going to be a marathon. Like a marathon, you're going to be tired, of course. You're going to feel burning throughout your entire body, in your arms, in your legs. It's going to be grueling, and it's going to last for hours, days, months, probably years. But at the end of it, you're going to have an incredible sense of accomplishment. You're going to have done far more than anyone else has. And in the marathon sense, you can eat whatever you want afterward. In the business sense, once you've made it and once you've been through that marathon, you can do whatever you want because you're free in a way that so many other people are not, because you've done your own thing, because you've built a business.
So now, in terms of creating the 7-hour book and all that, what were you doing before, and what was everything that actually led up to that? So what was kind of your epiphany moment, or when did you know, hey, this is exactly what I want to do?
Sure. With that, I had been helping people in my community with their books. I'd been helping them to get books out. What really made the difference for me was that I'd been working with a doctor. He took a very different approach to books than what I'd seen. He wasn't out to have this best-selling title. He also wasn't out to just get some simple ebook on the market. He really had a vision for this book. He realized that it could be a major vehicle for him and for his business. He had courses he planned to do afterward. He planned to sell his book at $50. I believe that's what it was, $50 per copy, which I didn't think was possible for a book that he was just doing himself. So he really understood that, yes, it was about the book, but it was also about using the book to get specific real-world results for himself and for his business.
Wow, so
that really led me to understand what a book could be versus what I'd seen it as.
Gotcha. Now, were you working for a publishing company before? Like, how do you get into helping people like publish books, and was that your background before? I mean, how do you kind of pivot from there?
Certainly, that was my background before, not doing the book thing full time.
Okay. Very cool, very cool. So to kind of fill in our listeners and everything, we're gonna have a link up on the website. His site where you can get the information is contentcore, that's corps.net. So for someone who's never heard of that before, and someone's like, all right, well, what exactly is the 7-hour book? Like, what exactly is that, or what exactly are you doing on a daily basis? What is your passion, or how does that work? I guess I threw like 10 questions in at once.
Sure, those are some great questions you asked. The 7-hour book, what we describe it as, in short, is the fastest way to get the most powerful sales tool you can have for your business. The reason we say it's the fastest way is that it only takes 7 hours of your time. This is not us creating the book for you in 7 hours. That takes much more. Okay. What it means is that you yourself only need to work with us for 7 hours. It only requires 7 hours of your time.
That's it?
Now, that's it. That's all it is. This is not months on the telephone, back and forth, emails too, with another person who's helping you. This is 7 hours of your time. We have streamlined the process to make it very easy because we get that you're running a business. You don't have time to be doing all of this other stuff on the side. You only have very limited time, and we only need 7 hours.
Gotcha. Now, I'm not sure if I had saw, was there a similar business that had made a pitch on Shark Tank that pretty much like ghost writes books for other people? So you're not doing that, correct? Or have you heard of that business before?
I have not.
Okay.
I would like to be clear, we are not a ghostwriting service.
Okay.
We are fundamentally opposed to that sort of thing.
Okay.
Because the truth is, Marcello, ghostwriters are English majors, and English majors do not have sales skills. They write pretty text that sounds good, makes themselves sound good, but does nothing for the business owner and does nothing to make them more money. And that is not us at all. We write books that sell. We publish books that sell. We do marketing. We are not a ghostwriting service. I want to be very clear about that for you and your listeners.
Very cool, very cool, and I'm glad you clarified that. And you do have a good point. Actually, I brought on board someone in my company, and he was asking for help with an email, and he was questioning something. He's like, "Oh, I think you can't end with a preposition, or you can't use that." And I was like, "Look, in terms of an email, you have to keep it short. You have to use a certain format, and you kind of have to get to the point right away. don't use extra words and make things fluffy in terms of this email. You need to think like a salesperson and not like a journalism major. And he was one where he kind of fell into sales. He was a journalism major, couldn't really find anything with that, and then transitioned. I actually transitioned quite well into sales. But you do have a good point. Ghostwriters, and I didn't realize most of them are just English majors, and they're not really salespeople. But that is a very good point. So, what kind of people are you normally helping? So, are you helping people in certain industries, or to kind of get there? Because basically, the whole point of having the book is one, having a book to increase their influence, increase the recognition, and kind of help break through all the obscurity. I'm sure. And the other point is obviously is if they can actually sell it. Do you find yourself working in certain industries or certain people who are like, yeah, I definitely need this?
Yeah, we find that people who are in sales-oriented industries, people who are entrepreneurs,
okay,
people who are also in service industries, services like selling real estate, brokers, finance professionals, people who are also small businesses, chiropractors, insurance people.
Okay.
A lot of service industries tend to translate very well where they have something that they need to explain, where there is considerable competition, where they also, in some cases, are looking to leave a legacy. If we were working with a doctor, like the one I mentioned, he might also be looking to leave a legacy and share the story he has with people, kind of give back in that sense. That translates very well to this too.
So let me go ahead and ask you then. So you have this, and I'm not sure how many people approach you versus maybe you approaching certain people, or maybe it's word of mouth. But let's say someone is talking to you, Nick, and is like, "All right, Nick, you kind of have my interest here. What are some common questions that you normally hear from people about your service?"
Common questions. I think that one of the big ones is what we went over before, which would be what makes us different than a ghostwriting service, which we'd covered. I think another one would be the fact that, yes, it only takes you, on your part, 7 hours. You only need 7 hours, and that's the only requirement from yourself. You only need to spend those 7 hours with us. I think another question really is, why do I need a book? We have gotten that before. There are people who can't see, as it sounds like you do, that a book is an amazing way to sell a product while getting your business name out there and while attracting more. So I think there are people who do wonder, why do I need a book?
Huh. And I do know from a sales trainer's standpoint, a lot of the products and a lot of the sales courses I've taken are because I got the person's book, I read the book, and then I wanted more information. So I imagine a lot of that is fairly similar. So if I'm looking for information for, let's say, a chiropractor or something like that, on maybe some of these specific benefits, it definitely helps market, and it definitely helps separate the person. I definitely get that. So aside from, let's say, ghostwriting, which you made that very clear, and I like that. Yeah, it's definitely not ghostwriting. Do you have any other competitors, or what else would you say sets you apart? Or pretty much your only competitors is either ghostwriters or for people to go ahead and do nothing at all?
Sure. I would say with certainty, and having seen the market, we do not have any competitors. We do not have any competitors because of the efficiency and the emphasis on time, only those 7 hours, the emphasis on real world results of the book. I will say that again till I'm blue in the face because it matters so much, Marcello. The idea that the book is going to do something for you, that we design it as a vehicle. You can go on our website, our listeners can go on the website, they will see written on there, you will sell at least 10 copies of your book within 30 days of it being out. We make that very clear because this book is guaranteed to sell. This book is guaranteed to have that real world result. So it's it's many things like that, but the emphasis on the book doing something for you and having an impact right now and over the long term. This is also another point I think your listeners should know. This is also not just about vague exposure. A lot of book creation, publishing, whatever you want to call them out there, the people who are not us and not doing it nearly as well as us, what they like to say is that, oh, a book gets you exposure, but they don't really say what exposure is. We make it very clear what you're going to get. I think that's fundamentally the most important thing.
Yeah, because I imagine then, and it says here, we'll give you a marketing plan, we'll help follow up and all that stuff, because there are definitely some ways to get exposure, and sometimes it's better to have just less and have less exposure, but have it be more targeted than really have broad exposure. So, for example, for my company, I know we contributed to a couple different articles on a couple different things, and yeah, it resulted in some traffic to my company's website, but it didn't really convert anything versus when we did stuff that was maybe a little bit more pointed and a little bit more specific to our industry than maybe the broader market as a whole. So I definitely get that. Can you tell me, and maybe it is the doctor, of all the people you've helped out, who are you the most proud of, or can you give me a story of maybe the best case scenario for one of your clients?
A scenario I'm proud of personally would be a realtor we've worked with. The reason being that he was one of these people who didn't really think that he had anything within himself. He thought that he was just another realtor. He'd like to have a book, but he didn't really believe that he was unique. What we did with him, though, was we helped him to see that, yes, he had a great backstory, that, yes, he did have the ability to get a book out, and that, yes, he could also really leave a profound legacy by sharing his thoughts with other generations, with the book that we were going to create for him and put out there and sell copies of. So we really helped him to, kind of, sounds corny, but kind of believe in himself through this book, really have a different view of himself, a different view of his business. He also now has a speaking career because of the book, which
Wow.
he never would have thought possible. Yes.
That is awesome. So let me go ahead and ask you. So for the 7-hour book and all that, is it you, or do you have some other people? Because there are some other people who we spoke with, like for one of our sponsors, Pipeliner. The CEO intentionally tries to get on at least a couple calls a week, actually with the sales team, and he actually pitches the product, which I definitely like. So for your service for the 7-hour book, is it mainly you? Do you have a team of other people? Are you kind of owning the process there? So people want to reach out, they basically want to go straight to Nick, or do you have a team, or how does that work?
I do have a team,
Okay.
a group of very talented individuals who I'm privileged to have the pleasure of managing. But if people are interested listening to this episode, they can reach me directly. One of my team members will forward it on to me.
Oh,
I'll
cool.
let them know that through our website and through the contact form there.
Gotcha. Very cool. Now, we always, and what we were talking about earlier, and it's kind of interesting because in terms of podcasts and sales and stuff like that, we definitely, one of the points of push-pull sales is to have a lot more meat, to have a lot more substance, and kind of be quick and dirty and get good information. We always ask everyone who we interview maybe a specific recommendation or something, or a service, and it could be a book, could be an app, could be a course, excluding your own service. What would you recommend for our listeners? What helped you the most, or what would be a good resource?
I think a good one that a lot of people don't really give as much credit as they should is a simple piece of paper, or a simple notebook for that purpose, a simple notebook and a pen. You would not believe what you can accomplish just by writing things down in that notebook and keeping a journal. If you simply put your thoughts down in that journal every day, planning before you wake up what you're going to do the next day, and keeping track of your progress during the day, it just makes it so much easier. It makes it so much less stressful in your job. It gives you greater focus as you go through your day. So just having that journal and having that time and taking down notes, that's what I would recommend.
Cool. Let me go ahead and pull something. So we're over on the site, and in terms of maybe continued ROI, and it's interesting. And your writer and in your services is pretty much to write books, and that is your recommendation, and I wholeheartedly agree. A lot of times, if I get my day started and I don't write things down immediately, a lot of times it takes me a lot longer to go ahead and get things done. I imagine that's probably a hard thing. So if you're dealing with salespeople, how hard is it for salespeople to kind of get everything organized or kind of get everything all together in terms of the preparation to work with you? I mean, how often are you finding that when you're working with different people? Because maybe, hey, I have an idea or I have everything scattered. How do you help people translate? Like for example, for the realtor, how do you help them translate maybe a vague vision into a specific book?
We have some custom tools that we've developed, some proprietary tools,
Okay.
which help people to get the idea at the beginning, get the idea out of their head. I like to joke that in this sense, we are the exorcist for the book at the beginning. We help to get the demons, if you will, those book demons out of your head that are possessing you, get them out of your head into paper, into a form that you can see and you can work with to then proceed with the book.
Okay. And let me ask you, in terms of your normal clients, then, are you limited to just clients within the USA? Do you have clients from overseas? Do you kind of work on a specific market, or how do you target people, or what would you say is your area of reach?
I would say the United States, Canada, perhaps some Europe,
Okay.
perhaps some Australia.
Okay.
We are based. What that means is that we tend to, on the whole, prefer and have the most success working with people in that North America, US, Canada geographic region. So that tends to be where we do most of our business. And it tends to be where we found that our tactics, our strategies really can make the most difference in the lives and in the businesses of our clients.
Now, what would be your response to maybe someone, especially, and I'm sure the U.S. is probably different. I imagine that Canadians read a little bit more than us Americans here. When someone says, "Well, yeah, but no one really reads books anymore." So, I mean, how much value can that possibly bring?
I would say to that
Mm-hmm.
that they need to stop thinking about the reading aspect of it. Stop thinking about the content only of the book. As I mentioned before, this is about the real world results of the book. Number one of those results being that you are seen as an authority. If you write a book, you are an authority. People assume that. Most people, as you pointed out, or many people, don't actually read the book. But when they see you are the author of the book, suddenly you become the expert to them. It's a funny thing. It's not necessarily right that they assume that, but they do. You are the authority.
Cool. So, in terms of finding you, how can people find you? Obviously, I see they have the contact information. Where is the best place to get more information, or where is the best place maybe to reach out to you specifically? Is it on LinkedIn? Is it on Twitter? Or what would you say is the best way to get a hold of you?
The best way for people who are thinking about a book, for people who have an idea, doesn't have to be a good one, but an idea for a book, would be to go to our website, contentcore.net. That's core, like the Marine Corps with an S, contentcore.net, to fill out the contact form on our website and get in touch that way.
Okay, very cool. And I forgot to ask this earlier. So, how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this, Marcelo, for quite a while, long enough to get gray hairs, I think is the best way to describe it.
That's good. That's good. Hey, Nick, let me go ahead and ask you as we kind of wrap things up here. Do you have any final thoughts? Anything else you want to share with our listeners?
Yes, I think one final thought, which listeners need to know,
Mm-hmm.
is that so many of them out there are probably sitting on amazing knowledge and life experiences that they never fully use. This knowledge and experience, it's what makes you unique, whether we're talking business, sales, or just life in general. So they're sitting on these ideas that they've thought of, which could, in some cases, change the world or at least change their community. They're sitting on this knowledge that they've accumulated over the years, which so many other people don't have, but would find valuable. They're sitting on an intellectual gold mine, if you will. And it's sad, so sad that they're not putting it to use to improve themselves, to improve their communities, to set themselves apart as salespeople and as entrepreneurs. So I think that people need to realize that. It might be a question of just not thinking enough about your background, where you've been. It might be a question of not really believing in yourself. But I think that people need to give themselves more credit for what they know.
Absolutely, and that's one thing I really like about your service, and kind of echoing exactly what you said. So, for example, for my company, what a lot of what we had done in terms of our website, in terms of our content, we would answer questions that a lot of customers have them that maybe some are a little bit more technical, and maybe things are a little bit higher level. And what we were so surprised is that there just wasn't that information out there online. Because, I mean, when you think like, okay, well, hey, we have to write an article on this. Well, I'll go ahead and Google it, and I'll find a similar article, and then I'll kind of get some of the information. I'll kind of add my own thoughts. And there was so much where only my company had that information, or maybe like ask someone who might be a little bit more senior and say, hey, you've been doing this for like 43 years. Can you tell me how this evolved or something like that? And it definitely surprises me too. And someone will say, well, you can Google it, you can look that information online. And sometimes you have the information yourself, and it doesn't hurt to market yourself that way. And I definitely get the idea now, because I'd say that's probably the hardest part to get, say, hey, what you have is unique. The information you have is definitely very helpful in terms of, I like that, the community, and I like how you're coming from a place of, this is going to help other people. It's not just about getting your name out there and just having a book as more of a vanity piece. It really is a marketing piece. It really is an integral part of the actual business plan afterward. And I'm assuming long term, if someone incorporates your service, then they're definitely continuing to sell books, for years on end. It might not be as much as maybe as if they're devoting full time to that in the beginning, because when you're new to something, you have a new project or a new initiative, I imagine they're putting the most effort in. But I imagine long term, if the plan's in place, it still works out for them, correct?
Yes, 100% correct.
Cool. All right, well, that is all the questions we have for you tonight. We're going to make sure to put links to contentcore.net over on the website. If you have any other like LinkedIn or anything like that you want us to link up to, we can definitely do that. But yeah, definitely appreciate having you on.
It's been a pleasure, Marcello. Thank you for having me.